Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to White City Place. It's really good to be able to connect with you in this way. And we're trying to keep this online platform going to, really support all the White City Place Connect participants and people that are aligned to this way of community, this way of thinking. We just wanted to kind of keep that connection going between the occupants of White City Place and ourselves. So meditation. So if you've just joined me, as in you haven't done any of my meditations before, then the way it works is that I just discuss various themes, really, various thoughts around meditation, and then we go into a meditation together. So there's a different theme every week because different things come up all the time. And I think the lesson behind just that alone is that meditation isn't something that you learn like a new skill and that's it. You know, it's a continuing journey of discovery. And I think that alone is a really big help to know, because when you know that, you might be a little bit easier on yourselves. It's not something that, you climb to the top of the mountain and then you're there every time you meditate. It's always a journey. And the reason behind that is that with meditation, it's really a route to, it's self-regulation, but learning to respond to situations rather than react. And what time is better than now to example that whole idea. So nobody knew this whole pandemic was going to happen, right? So even the most seasoned meditators in the world wouldn't know that was going to happen. So your meditation might change a little bit. So even though these seasoned meditators, COVID comes along and you just sometimes have to kind of work a little bit harder. So this is just the kind of lesson in life. When we get thrown off balance and we get into a regular meditation practice, it's not always going to be the same every time. Some days you might get up and something's troubling you. It's been troubling you for a long time and you carry it with you all day. That meditation might take a little bit longer to get into. The easiest time to meditate, of course, is sitting in the sun, everything's cool and you're happy and there's no real issues in the world or around your space. So it's always going to be different. It's always going to be a journey. And I think also with the advances of science that we have, we're discovering so much more through neuroscience about the brain and how we really can become masters of our, not of our destiny so much, but the way that we react, with the way that we respond, I should say, to whatever happens in our lives. So you really are the captain of your ship, and meditation really, really helps that. So you learn to self-regulate. You become more attuned to what's happening outside of yourself. So you become attuned to that. You understand it. You know how you react to certain situations that crop up. You just become a little bit more aware of the way that you are reacting. And it might be like if say you're having an argument with your partner or someone that you share the house with or something like that, and you might say something in a reactive way, and then afterwards think to yourself, I didn't like the way that I said that. Those times become more noticeable when you start to self-regulate through meditation or yoga or exercise, diet, whatever it might be. The self-regulation is basically another two words for saying that you're looking after yourself. You're noticing. You're starting to, when you notice how you eat, how you exercise, how you think, then you can start doing something about it, which is wonderful. That's incredibly freeing, just as an idea that you can change the way that you respond to the world. So you start to notice these times as you start to self-regulate. You start to notice, so you go back to this argument that you've had with your partner and you react a certain way and you go, oh, I didn't like that. You're going to be more in tune with what your thoughts are thereafter. So, you might change the conversation later in the day. And also step out of yourself a little bit as well. There's this idea that, we're all acting out these stories in life. If you can kind of step out of yourself and see yourself as this person arguing with your partner, you can kind of be obviously adjudicator of what's going on, and you can change that conversation. And another nice way to think about it, or an easier way to think about it, is, and there's so much, this is another very timely conversation, but there's so much judgment out there in the world, and the best way, and I remember hearing this years ago, and I do practice it every now and then when I remember to, but it's, if you have a judgment about somebody in your head and you speak it, of course that's the worst kind. The next stage before you speak it, or the stage before you speak it rather, is just thinking that thought. So if you can get to the point where you're thinking a judgmental thought, but you stop yourself from saying it, then that's the first step. That's great. You didn't say it. And the more you get into that habit of not voicing your judgment about another person, or a really strong opinion about something, whatever it might be, the more you can stop yourself from actually delivering it in words audibly, the less you'll start thinking that way as well. So it's kind of training yourself. It's like not taking notice. So the more that you voice these thoughts, the more you're allowing it, you're enabling that kind of behavior within yourself. And if you stop voicing these thoughts, it's not great to think them either, but you'll stop thinking that way as well, because you're not allowing it to go any further. It's a funny thing to get your head around, but it's also quite easy as well. So if you find yourself being judgmental and you voice something, or even gossiping, we all do that. Like everybody has a gossip every now and then. Oh, what happened to so-and-so, and you find yourself doing it, and it's a kind of cheap thrill, and so, you can stop that. You can stop talking about other people in that way. Who are we, who are we to do that? So there's lots of little tricks and tools and ways to self-regulate. And I guess what I'm boiling down to is that meditation, honestly, is I believe, the best way to really feel who you are, to get in tune with who you are, and just to be silent from the outside world, find out more about how you're feeling physically, mentally, and then taking yourself into that meditative space. Now, last week, I talked about heart rhythms and heart waves, and how we have these variable heart waves. I'm not going to go into it this week in any big detail, but we also have these brainwaves, of course, you'll have heard about. And, you have your delta, you have your theta, you have your alpha, you have your gamma. Yes, you have your delta, your theta, your gamma, your beta, and your alpha. And your delta brainwaves are those brainwaves that you get when you're in a really deep sleep, but also when you're in a really, really deep meditative state. Theta is a slightly slower wave, and a lot of healers actually, when they start to heal, go into this theta theta state. This is where the brainwaves start to kick in, this theta state. And these are all different speeds of waves. So delta wave is a very, very slow, cruisy wave, as you can imagine, and the theta is the second slowest wave. And then you've got this alpha in the middle, which I'll come back to in a minute. And then after that, you've got this faster wave, which is our beta wave. And our beta wave gets us up in the morning. It helps us function. You know, we'll work out the directions to a place that we might be going, how to drive a car, things of the day, why you're going to make a cake, whatever it might be. So we need beta. But when our beta gets out of whack and it goes too high, when those waves, the amplitude is the length of the wave, from the bottom to the top. When the amplitude gets too high in beta waves and too jagged, then we go into a stress state. We don't know what to do, how to react. We react. We don't know how to respond. And our beta waves are our stressful waves. And these are really jagged waves. And so our body goes into turmoil. And what happens is, when you're in these states, the blood flow, the oxygenated blood flow is restricted to the prefrontal cortex, this part here, which is your thinking brain, your rational mind. So 70% of your oxygenated blood doesn't go to that part of your brain when you are stressed. So that's why you feel like, oh, you know, you're so stressed, I can't think straight, I don't know what to do, and you go into panic mode and it all goes horribly wrong. So that's the beta state. And then finally we have the gamma, which is it's the state of meditation that, it's the brainwave that monks who meditate continually tend to go into gamma wave. And gamma is the only wave that covers the entire spectrum of your brain. All those other waves I talked about go to various parts of your brain, like one at a time. The gamma covers the whole of the brain. And really it's brilliant because it's all about balance. It's all the parts of the brain coming together. It keeps you calm, clear-minded, exactly how we envision, you know, the monks to be and as they are. It's a very cool place to get to. And we don't get to it very often. The times that we will have a gamma wave might be when we have a brilliant idea about something, an insight, an aha moment. You know, these are fleeting times that we have these gamma waves. And the alpha wave I was going to go back to, that's the one in the middle. The reason I bring that up at last is because really that's the bridge between these higher waves at the bottom, so the beta and the gamma, and then the slow waves, the delta and the theta. And that's important because you want to have a balance of both of those, your conscious and your subconscious minds at the same time. So why do I mention all of that? Well, it's kind of important in meditation to know that because, and I've talked about this before, mindfulness versus meditation, and a lot of people would argue it's exactly the same thing. And yes, it is, in that if you do them both, it is a form of meditation. But there is definitely a more conscious, coherent side of meditation versus the deeper, more relaxed, more insightful type of meditation. So I'm going to take you to a mixture of both today, and know that when we are doing the coherent breathing, that means that the breath is the same on either side. The in-breath and the out-breath is going to be the same length. We did this last week for the heart coherence. If you want to watch that video, it's last week's. It's a really beautiful meditation to get into. And it's actually one that these monks do tend to focus on to achieve the gamma wave, because it's based on compassion and about appreciation and love. So where were we? So yes, with a coherent breath, this becomes a kind of more mindful situation. So you're being very mindful of how long your breaths are. You're noticing the length of the breath. And you can do that with counting, and I'll be guiding you through it so you don't have to think before we start. But We'll be guiding through that. So that's a more mindful state. And then I'm going to have these little spaces between. This is what I like to call them. This is the part where you don't breathe consciously anymore. You just come into your natural breath. And you'll probably notice after you've done some conscious breathing that when you fall back into this calm state in between the conscious breaths, it's a lot stiller. Hopefully you'll find that as we go through it. You'll feel a little bit more just like you're letting go, suspended, almost like you've hit the pause button. You're just kind of suspended in time and space. You've got nowhere to go. It's just nice and quiet right there. And then you go back to the conscious breath. So those are my two different ways of kind of trying to get into all these different waves in your brain, and also tap into your heart coherence meditation. So yeah, hopefully that wasn't too much information thrown at you. These are just always random thoughts on a Monday, and an example of how things can change, and how it's not a straight here's how to do it, off you go. It's going to become your experience. Meditation is going to become your experience and yours alone. And these tools that I give you each week are really just to have different ideas to play with. It's really about finding one that fits. You'll take one on for maybe a few weeks and then go, oh, I'm going to try that other one, or maybe I'm going to combine all the ones that Viv's mentioned, and you can do that as well. It's really finding something that works for you. Some people choose a mantra that can work for them as well. So finding out what works for you, making it yours, and then noticing, just being really intuitive. You start to build your intuition determined on how that meditation is working for you, and what you're learning from it. And also sometimes you're going to sit in meditation and you might be there for at least 10 minutes trying to chuck those monkeys out of the trees that are just taking over your brain, the monkey mind. Let that go, accept that, and be cool with it. It really doesn't matter. You're going to have very different days, so it might take a lot longer. You might have a whole meditation session of just sitting there trying to stop the thoughts. None of it matters. That what matters is that you show up and you make your meditation a non-negotiable every day. This is your time, your gift to yourself. And probably the most important gift you can give to yourself, actually. And hopefully you'll take it throughout your life. But it is rocking up every day and doing that. So if you find that difficult at the beginning to commit, trust me, it gets easier. Once you start meditating, it does become a non-negotiable, and you can't see your day go through without doing it. So you'll just make the time. At the beginning, when you're trying to meditate, you're like, oh, I want this to work, and I can't commit to the time. I'm finding it difficult. Oh, I missed a few days. Then at least break the time up. If you can't commit to 20 minutes, then maybe break up chunks of 5 minutes. Just do it at some point, whenever you can, even sitting on a tube, or whenever you're back on public transport, walking down the street. Make it a mindful meditation. Whenever you can do it, fit it into your day, and the rest will become a lot easier. All right, so let's just start. So get yourself nice and comfortable. I always say that if you're sitting on the floor, you might want to kind of nudge up against the sofa and have your back supported, or like I'm in a chair today, so I will have my spine supported because I'm sitting talking to you guys. So yeah, make sure you're comfortable, get nice and easy, and just close your eyes. So start off closing your eyes. And just noticing how your body feels. So it's the best way to start. Just noticing, not even trying to meditate, just being aware of how you're feeling right now, how the body's sitting. You might take a little time to shuffle on your seat a little bit. And the same way as you're shuffling on your seat a little bit, it's a little bit like that in your head, you know, you kind of thoughts are kind of shuffling around a little bit until they start to settle. So just allow yourself to be, just accept however you are right now, today. Being aware of the sounds either outside or in your space, maybe neighbors around your space. And then just noticing your breathing. So coming into that really easy place where you're just noticing that in breath and the out. And then we're going to start some conscious breathing. So I'm going to get you to breathe in for a count, maybe 5, maybe 3, maybe 7, whatever your number might be. It doesn't matter what it is. It depends how fast you breathe, I suppose, but don't worry too much about what the actual number is. But at the top of the in-breath, hold the breath for a couple of beats and then let that breath go on a longer number than the in-breath. So if you breathed in for 5, you'd hold it for 2 and then let the breath go for 7 or 8. And of course, if it was 3, you might let the out-breath be, 7 or 5. Whatever ratio works for you. But whenever you're ready, just taking a nice inhale. So try and breathe in through your nose. Fill yourself up. Hold that breath at the top, a couple of beats. And then, let it go. Maybe through your nose to start. If your nose is blocked, then of course use your mouth. No problem at all. Get to the bottom of that breath, breathing in again. So remembering your count. Holding the breath for 2. And then letting it go. Longer out breath. Last one, whenever you're ready, taking that. There's no rush. If you've already finished it, then just noticing. If you haven't finished it, just taking your time with that out breath. We're all going to arrive at the same space, so just allow yourself to it's almost like flopping into a chair. You're just really soft here. Just noticing that little space between, that little soft place where you just let go of having to breathe a certain way. Any thoughts that come into your mind, just come back to how your body's feeling right now. Don't worry about thoughts coming in. It's absolutely fine to have them. It's really about not getting attached to them. Nobody can stop their thoughts coming in. But you can try and avoid getting into the narrative. You just notice the thought and go, okay, I'm supposed to be focusing on my breath. So you come back to your body. It doesn't matter how many times you have to do that. You're trying to expand the space between your thoughts. It's just pure focus on your breath and your body. Now we're going to change the ratio of the breathing. It's going to be conscious breath again. But this time choose a number whatever you're comfortable with. If you get a little bit short of breath, then please choose a lower number. I always go for about 5 because I feel that's a kind of nice middle of the road number. But if that's too long, you can drop that to 3 or 4, or whatever might work. But the game is that we're going to breathe in for that count. So let's just say 5 for argument's sake. So breathing in for 5 and then holding the breath for the same number. So it'll be for 5 again, and then letting it go all the way out for about 8, or maybe even up to 10 on that out breath. So you can imagine it a bit like a triangle, if you like. So you'll breathe a kind of lopsided triangle. So you'll be breathing in for 5, let's just say 5, or 3 if you get short of breath. You can always change the number after you've completed a cycle to see if that's better for you. So you're going to breathe in. We'll start this one together. So whenever you're ready, just empty out your breath. And then breathing in. So breathe in for 5. Hold that breath for 5. Imagine drawing another side of the triangle. And now let the breath go for longer. Maybe 8 or 10. Whenever you're ready to go again, breathing in for 5 or 3. Holding it for the same number. And then letting it go for the longer side of the triangle. Whenever you want to go again, keep that going. We'll just do a few of these. It can get quite tiring when you're doing conscious breath exercises. So just doing a few more of these. And know that with that out breath, you can make that as long as you like or as short as you like, as long as it's longer than the in and the held breath. Just doing one more round of those. When you get to the bottom of your out breath on that last one, again, just letting it go. Falling into that armchair of the mind. Just feeling that stillness. And during these little moments of stillness, of nothingness, you might just be looking at the back of your eyelids and just seeing what color comes up for you. It might be a color, it might be shapes, it might be shades, it might be blobby, a little bit like a lava lamp. Or you might just have one full color. Whatever it is you can see, even if it's dark, like a dark velvet, whatever it might be, just trying to hang on to whatever it is that you can see behind your eyelids, because it will change. And the challenge is to try and either keep the same shade of color or try and keep the actual shape or a little thing that you can see, whatever it might be, a little blob of color that is kind of floating across your eyelids, or maybe it's staying still for a while. Maybe it's changing shape. Just keeping your focus on whatever it is that you can see there. Now I want to see if you can maintain the focus behind your eyelids. It's probably the easiest one of all, but it does take a few of the conscious breath exercises that we just did to get into this more relaxed state. Your brain waves are slowing down. You can kind of stay with that, those moving images behind your eyelids, or maybe they're still images, colors. But I'd like you to try and keep whatever it is that might be your focus behind your eyelids. And while you're keeping it, we're going to try and breathe consciously again, but this time it's just going to be a very straightforward, coherent breathing. So we're going to breathe in for a count of 5 seconds, and then out for a count of 5 seconds, and then in 5 seconds, and out. So if you can imagine that like a wave, a beautiful flowing wave just going up and down with no alteration, because each side is the same length of breath. It just flows along. So I'm going to count you in for the first one, and then you can just take it away and think of it like a wave, just ebbing and flowing. So whenever you're ready, just pushing out all your breath, and then breathing in for 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, in, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep going. 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue on your own. But don't forget to come back. Once you've got the flow, once you've got that beautiful wave going, come back to staring at the back of your eyelids at the same time. So you've got the coherence of the breath and the calmness of whatever it is you can see behind your eyelids. So you're combining the two. And don't worry about the breath. You don't have to kind of breathe in so much that you're filling yourself up and out again. It's just a relaxed in and out. Just as if you're sitting really calmly on the sofa, watching TV or whatever it might be, reading a book. Very nice, calm breath, but you're just aware of the length in and the length out. Just trying to keep that lovely rhythm like a wave. While keeping the image behind your eyes. See if you can let the counting go, but just maintain that lovely wave of the breath. So you don't need to count it anymore. You're probably into the rhythm already. No need to use the numbers in your head. So just keeping that nice breath, but coming back, still looking at the back of the eyelids. And then I just want you to place your right hand just to where your heart space will be, just above your breastbone. And then just starting to think about the idea of gratitude. So it doesn't have to be an actual event that you're thankful for or anything like that. Just feeling what it's like to be grateful, that real joy in the heart space. Just knowing that you have everything that you need right now. Just feeling that joy, that gratitude, fill your heart space. That lovely flow of breath is just coming in and out of the heart. As you breathe, you can feel the heart rising. And slowly exhaling, it just releases a little bit. So just knowing what that feeling of gratitude feels like, just feel it in your heart now. You can fill yourself up with that feeling. Imagining that feeling of gratitude just kind of extending outside of your physical body. Ripples. You're causing ripples with this lovely energy out into the world. And then just let that go. Let your hand just relax back down again. And I want you just to imagine that your skull and your brain have just been lifted out of the space that is your head. So just taking everything out, clearing out the space that forms your head. So it's just the skin that remains. Your skull, your brain's taken away. Just creating this empty space, this vacuous space inside of your head. And then just filling it with a bright light. Just feeling that lightness. And with that lightness in your head, just imagining that for the rest of your body. So the throat, the neck becomes completely empty. And then your chest, the ribs, the organs, everything just comes away apart from your heart that stays where it is. The arms empty out, your legs, feet. So all that remains is the skin that keeps your form. And that form is just now filled with energy. And that beautiful bright light that was in your head is now traveling into all those empty spaces that you've just created in your body. Around the heart. The heart stays where it is. It's breathing in this light. And then just imagining that the pores in your skin are now allowing that light to break through, to shine through. So the light starts to extend outside of your body. And just noticing any sensations that come up for you. Sometimes you can feel a tingling in your hands. You just might be aware of your heart beating. And we're going to bring that awareness back into our space, our bodies, starting to feel your body back on the chair or the floor or the sofa. Starting to notice the sounds around you. And also when you start to notice the sounds around you again, being aware that while you were meditating, you were probably less aware of those sounds around you. You were able to be in a different place. It's quite interesting how your focus can take you away from the sounds around you, and then you bring them back again. And then just to bring yourself back, just starting to consciously breathe again. So breathing in for that 5 and out for that 5, bringing that lovely wave back into your body. So breathing in for 5 and out for 5. So a few times like that. And as you're taking those in and out breaths, just that really nice gentle wave, you might start to very gently open your eyes. But do it gradually so that you're not letting in too much light all at once. Just letting the light in really gradually. And then combining that with the sounds that you can hear. Noticing your space around you and knowing that it's really important to bring yourself back from meditation in a very gentle way. You know, you can't just kind of set the alarm and jump up the minute it's done. You know, it's really good to go easy on yourself. If you do want to use an alarm because you've only got a set amount of time that you can spend, then see if you can set the alarm for 5 minutes more later than, say you wanted to meditate for 20 minutes, set the alarm for 25 minutes and see if you can just kind of start to regulate that time. You'll get an idea after you've done it for a few times. You kind of know how long you've been sitting there. So see if you can bring yourself out without using an alarm. That would be the best way of all. Yeah. Anyway, take it easy. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a really good rest of the week. And I will be here next week. Yeah. All right. If you want to know any other tips or different ways, you can look back at the previous meditations that have been on here, and catch up that way. But there's never a better time to start than now. All right, take it easy. Thank you for being here. Thanks for watching.